All right, guys. So it's one thing to see random leftists on Twitter get outraged about college football being back, about people, living their lives and having fun, right? It's one thing to see random people on the internet get triggered by that. It's another thing to see a major news network like CNN get outraged about college football stadiums being packed after ignoring Democrats breaking their own COVID health protocols for the last basically 2 years now. I just cannot believe this segment I'm about to show you guys that CNN ran after a weekend of college football. Take a look.
Schaffner, even though this surge is even worse in some states and in some parts of the country than at any other time during the pandemic, we are seeing relatively normal life, like packed football stadiums this weekend. This morning, Dr. Anthony Fauci expressed concern about that here on CNN. Listen.
No, I don't think it's smart. I think when you're dealing particularly outdoors is always better than indoors, but even when you have such a congregate setting of people close together, first you should be vaccinated. And when you do have congregate settings, particularly indoors, you should be wearing a mask.
I just can't get over the pictures of those outdoor stadiums. Dr. Schaffner, even if, these events are happening outdoors, are crowds like that safe?
Oh, Anna, we wouldn't ever talk about being safe. I don't use that four-letter word. But these crowds do provide a risk. This Delta variant is so readily spread that even outdoors where people are cheery and enthusiastic, exhaling with vigor, if there are people infected, they can infect people around them. I looked at those television images. Nobody was wearing a mask at all. Mm-hmm. And I would be very surprised if we didn't have outbreaks here and there across the country related to these gatherings, these football stadium events in the coming weeks.
Sarah, as a nurse on the front lines, what goes through your mind seeing those images?
It's tough. It's like we're fighting this fight alone as healthcare workers. It's like none of the public seem to care as much. Everybody is more relaxed. Nobody's wearing masks anymore, and it's hard feeling like we're alone in this fight. And
well, you're not alone. We are so grateful for all that you do, both of you, for your ongoing dedication to keeping us safe. And
all right, guys, so like any video I do that's related to the pandemic, the virus, the vaccine, mask, whatever, I'm not making any claims about the pandemic, the virus, the vaccine, the mask, or anything like that. I'm not making any claims whatsoever. If you have any questions about the pandemic, the virus, the vaccines, the mask, please consult your medical professional. This is about public policy only. Now, guys, I could not believe what I heard from CNN. Actually, I could believe it, but at the same time, I can't believe it because I can't believe that they think people are really this dumb. Okay? Guys, we just went through a period of Democrats breaking COVID health protocols, the same protocols that Democrats push, right? And they've been doing this not just this year, guys, but they've been doing it ever since the pandemic began, ever since March of last year. And you never heard anything from CNN like this. When Obama was having his party, right? His party of 300-400 people, it was indoors. CNN said nothing. Nancy Pelosi, when she went and got her hair did, right, in San Francisco, while everybody else was locked down, CNN said nothing. Nancy Pelosi doing a Democrat fundraiser, nobody wearing masks, nobody socially distancing, nobody doing any of that. Fundraiser with rich Democrats out in California. CNN said nothing. Lollapalooza, CNN said nothing. Kanye's concert, CNN said nothing. BLM riots and protests, CNN said nothing. Antifa riots and protests, CNN says nothing. But if it's a Sturgis bike rally, if it's a Trump rally, if it's a Republican event, if it's a college football event, oh, CNN, it's the end of the world. I can't believe it. I can't believe I'm watching this stadium jam-packed with kids celebrating and having fun and living their lives. And what really blows my mind here, guys, is how they don't even try to give the benefit of the doubt to ask the question of, okay, well, some of these schools are mandating vaccines, like Virginia Tech, for example, right? They didn't even question whether or not the students were vaccinated. They didn't even try to give them a benefit of the doubt and say, well, maybe most of those students are vaccinated, right? Maybe a lot of people there are vaccinated. No, they don't get the benefit of the doubt. But when it came to Obama's party, well, but they're vaccinated. And they didn't provide any evidence of that actually being the case, right? They didn't provide no evidence that everybody there was vaccinated. We don't know. If it comes to any type of Democrat event, but we're just assuming they're vaccinated because they're Democrat. But if it comes to any event they don't approve of, like the Sturgis bike rally, you don't get that benefit of the doubt. You don't get the question of, I wonder are those people vaccinated? And see, it's funny because they started doing this even before the vaccines were a thing. They started doing this during the BLM riot / protest, where everybody knew that it was not right for them to be out there protesting in the street, crowded, packed like sardines, right? Again, they were outside, just like these college football games are outside. And CNN comes out here and acts like there's no problem with it whatsoever. Again, while everybody else at the time was locked down because we didn't know what the hell was going on with this virus. But CNN went out there and said, oh no, it's okay for them to do that because racism is a public health crisis. So when they get called out about this, right, the fact that, hey, y'all kept saying those anti-lockdown protests were super spreader events, but these BLM protests are not. You know what they say? They come out and they say, well, the BLM protests weren't a super spreader event because they was outdoors, right? So back then, that's what they were saying. Well, it's outdoors, so it was fine, right? College football games, outdoors. All of a sudden, it's a super spreader event. Trump rally, outdoors, super spreader event. So again, tell me, does being outdoors, does it matter? Does it not matter? Make it make sense to me. And then people want to talk about, well, why are people so hesitant about the science? It's because the narrative is always put over the science. It seems like the science always changes based off the narrative. That's why. And you see this happening again with any event that they agree with versus events they don't agree with. Again, if it's an LGBTQ rally, right, or some type of women's march thing, they're not going to say anything about it. All of a sudden, it's not a super spreader event anymore. Whether it's outdoors or indoors, it doesn't matter. It's all about the narrative. And this is why you can't take the mainstream media serious. All these journalists like Don Lemon or so-called journalists, they come in here and complain about, well, why do people take us seriously? Why do people watch alternative media more than mainstream media? Well, the reason why is because it is. The reason why is because you clearly have a political agenda. It's one thing if you went out here and you called it straight. If you called out Obama and his party, if you called out Nancy Pelosi, right? If you called out the people at Lollapalooza, if you called out all these events, right? Any type of gathering, you say, listen, guys, this is something we shouldn't be doing right now. We're in the middle of a pandemic. Hey, listen, some people may not necessarily agree with you, but at the very least, people can't say you're not being consistent, right? People can't say that you're being political. And this is what I'm talking about, guys, when I say I hate how politicized this virus has become, right? Everything is political. What's a super spreader event and what's not a super spreader event is purely political. These people did not get the benefit of the doubt in regards to their vaccination status. They didn't even get it. It wasn't even a question. It was automatically, oh, I'm worried about this because of X, Y, and Z. They're packed like sardines, blah, blah, blah. I don't feel good seeing those crowds. It's a slap in the face to healthcare workers. What was all this, again, doing the BLM riots and protests? Was that not a slap in the face to healthcare workers? When all those people was getting in the streets, rioting and protesting, they weren't all wearing masks. They weren't all socially distancing. And they weren't vaccinated because at the time we didn't have vaccines. So now at a time when we have vaccines, if your event is associated with something they don't approve of, you don't even get the benefit of the doubt to say, well, you might be vaccinated. Which is the excuse they use to ignore the Democrats. But then they say, oh, we're nonpartisan. We just call it like we see it, down the middle. But when you see segments like this, guys, it's almost like they think you're stupid. Actually, I know they think we're stupid. Because only a stupid person can watch a segment like that and not be like, what the heck? What was all this outrage when you had all those people protesting, rioting in the street all last year? Guys, I'm going to tell you something. Is at the point now, guys, where I hate to bring this up, but this is just kind of what it is at this point. your event, if what you're doing is not, again, approved by the Democrats, or if it is majority white, okay, it has to be both, not approved by the Democrats and majority white, it's not okay, right? According to the liberal media, it's not okay. Because, again, Kanye is not woke, right? He's definitely not a Democrat, I don't believe. He had his event. He didn't require vaccines or even a negative COVID-19 test at his Don the Listening party, and the media said nothing. This guy's one of the biggest stars in the world. Media said nothing. Media said nothing whatsoever. Well, why is that? Because Kanye's black. So they're going to ignore it. They're going to sweep it under the rug because they don't really want to be accused of being racist. But again, if the event is primarily white, or put it this way, most of the people there happen to be white, like at these college football games, and is not approved by the Democrats, it's free reign to call it a super spreader event. That's just what it is. I'm sorry. And I hate to break it down like that, but that appears to me to be what it is. And they've tried their best to try to hide behind, oh, well, it's about the vaccines. Oh, well, it's about, social distancing. It's about, being outdoors. They tried, right? They try to make every excuse they can for stuff that they agree with, but it's got to the point now where it's like, no, there is no more excuses. You're straight up partisan hacks. You are political propagandists. That's what you are. It's not about the science. It's not about the vaccine. It's not about public health. It's about a political agenda. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. Because you're not calling it straight. You're calling it based off political groups that you agree with and ones that you don't agree with. It's very clear that's what's happening. Which, again, undermines everything that they say they're for. And this, again, guys, is what I hate about what's going on right now. This is how you politicize the virus. And this is why, again, the mainstream media has lost all credibility when it comes to this pandemic. They just lost all credibility. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The left-wing liberal media, in regards to public safety and this pandemic and whatever the things they claim they care about, they're their own worst enemies because they have essentially lost all credibility by the fact that they have politicized this virus and made it so it's okay for certain groups of people to have fun and live their lives as long as you agree with a certain political perspective. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.